The home gym is a little bit cooked. I have gained over 1.6 kilos or 3.5 pounds of pure muscle and lost body fat in the last 3 months. I don't have anything that I need to hit a workout. I don't have a gym membership anywhere. So essentially I'm going to have to do a Welcome to the Greek God Project, where I take you guys on the journey through me getting jacked, strong, and healthy. In today's video, we're going to run through how much progress I've made in 90 days. Enjoy. All right, I'm in a little bit of a predicament here because first week in Melbourne, I'll be here, I have my gym, everything is great, I'll be able to do all my workouts, which is fine, but next week I'm going to be in Perth. Now the problem with that is I don't have my gym set up. I don't have anything that I need to hit a workout. I don't have a gym membership anywhere. So essentially I'm going to have to do a deload week. Now I'm not a huge fan of deload weeks. I don't think most people really need them, but probably not a bad thing for me. I mean, we've ran 4 marathons in the past 4 months, haven't really taken any breaks from that. We've been constantly progressive overloading the gym, getting PRs every week. So probably not a bad time to do a deload week. So I would kind of explain to you guys, run you through how I'm doing this deload week. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same workouts as I'm doing right now, but I'm just going to go 3 reps from failure rather than 1. The problem is when I get back to Perth, I'm only going to have dumbbells, so I'm going to have to change the exercises somewhat, but I'll be essentially doing the exact same volume for all of my muscle groups. All I'll be doing is less weight and going maybe 3 reps from failure. So it's not going to be as fatiguing on the body. Now, this will allow me to make sure my muscles aren't atrophying. I still have a bit of stimulus, but at the same time, it's allowing my muscles, my joints to recover, and probably my central nervous system to recover a bit as well, because I put a huge amount of load on the central nervous system over the past, 4-6 months, a lot of load, and haven't really taken any breaks. So this is probably a good time to do a deload. It's kind of a forced deload, but probably not a bad position to be in. So the plan is I will, do my workouts like I usually do for this week. Next week I'll go to Perth. I will do what I can with the equipment I can, just try and get a bit of stimulus in, but not fatigue myself too much. And then I'll come back here and just continue the program as per usual. But it's probably a good thing that I have this forced deload week, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have taken it, and realistically I probably should take it. Now I think people overdo the deload weeks. They go, oh, I need a break, I need a deload week, and probably not true, but in this case it'll probably be a good idea. So forced deload week, which is probably not going to be great for the gains this month, but it will probably be good for the gains long term. Not entirely sure if that's true or not, but Dr. ChatGPT seems to think it will be, so I'll take its word for it, and we'll see what happens. But I'm going to make the most of the training this week, and then know I have a pretty chill week next week, and then it'll just be back to the grind, back to the slog. Huge spanner in the works for the Greek God Project. I've returned from Perth, and I've come into somewhat of a problem here. The home gym is a little bit cooked. One of these dumbbells, this one, I believe, is completely cooked. It is not adjusting properly. And now that we don't have a dumbbell, it severely has limited our workouts. Now, this home gym has been responsible for the best gains of my entire life. Basically, all comes down to consistency. I mean, your gym equipment has very little to do with the gains you make. It's generally just how consistent are you with your eating, your sleeping, and your training. But unfortunately, the dumbbells are broken. This is probably 50% of the value of this home gym. Because I'm not going to be in Melbourne for much longer, it doesn't make economic sense for me to replace the dumbbells. So, devastating news, but this is the end of an era. The end of the era of the home gym, and the arrival of the era of the commercial gym. Sad times, honestly. We've had a lot of great memories in this gym. I got up my first 100 kilo bench in this gym, got the best gains of my life here. So very sad times. However, I am looking forward to the commercial gym. I reckon I can actually probably get the most out of the equipment now that I've unlocked that trait of consistency, now that my sleep nutrition's pretty dialed. So we can probably get some pretty crazy gains. And in fairness, we will probably get slightly better gains in the commercial gym. However, it is sad to say goodbye to this beautiful beast of the home gym. Now, I think this is a good point to just talk about your gear. A lot of us are trying to get the perfect gear, make sure all of our eggs are in order, all our eggs are in line. I'm not sure what the expression is, but we try and wait till everything is perfect before we take action. Now, this home gym cost me $500. It is a squat rack, it is a bench, it is an Olympic bar. I've got some weight plates there and some adjustable dumbbells. This is worse gym equipment than 90% of people have, but I've been able to get in better shape than nearly everyone naturally just using this. And it just goes to show it has very little to do with the gym equipment that you have and a lot to do with how consistent are you? Is your routine relatively good? Okay. How good is your sleep? How good is your diet? Those are the big things. After that, if you're really trying to squeeze out that extra 10%, then go to a good gym, right? Get good equipment, but it is definitely secondary to taking action, being consistent, and putting in good inputs. So, sad times, honestly. I really would have liked to be able to use this home gym until I left Melbourne, but we're gonna have to say goodbye a little bit early, a little bit prematurely, which is sad. It also means that I'm also gonna have to switch over some exercises, so the tracking of the weight and the strength progress is gonna be a little bit off. We'll have to reset to whatever the new exercises are now. I am very much looking forward to starting to use the machines, because one of the big benefits of machines is they have quite a high stimulus to fatigue ratio. Now, what I mean by that is the amount of muscle growth stimulus that you get out of a machine relative to how much fatigue you put on your body, on your central nervous system, is very, very good. So should be pretty good for the gains, pretty good for the recovery, which I'm looking forward to. However, I won't get to be outside in the summer, in the sun, although Melbourne weather, pretty hit or miss, but I'm not going to get that, which is unfortunate. However, there's pros and cons to both. So that's it. That's the end of the home gym, unfortunately. Time to start getting some commercial gym gains. Right, now at this point in the episode, I would usually be showing you guys my strength progress. How much has my strength gone up or down over the course of the month? However, I'm not gonna lie, I just don't have meaningful data to show you guys. Obviously, the first week of the month, I was in the home gym. Second week, I was in Perth with dumbbells doing a deload week. Third week, I was in the commercial gym. So I basically just had zero meaningful data to share with you guys. However, I have something way more interesting than that, and that is the fact that I have gained over 1.6 kilos or 3.5 pounds of pure muscle and lost body fat in the last 3 months. Probably. According to the data that I've collected, which I think is relatively accurate, we can create a pretty strong picture, a pretty strong conclusion that I've actually lost body fat and put on a significant amount of muscle over the past 3 months. Now, forewarning, this is going to be very autistic, a lot of data. I wouldn't recommend doing this yourself unless you want to be very serious about this stuff. This is by no means an 80-20 activity, but essentially what I've done is I have weighed myself every single morning, first thing in the morning, without eating any food, incredibly consistently for the past 3 months. I've meticulously tracked my calories every day for the past 3 months, and I have tracked the amount of calories that I've burnt every day for the past 3 months. And this has given me a lot of data. Now, the calories burnt comes from my Whoop reading. I don't take my Whoop off. It tracks my heart rate and it tracks a whole bunch of things, and it basically comes out with a calories burnt number. The calories recorded, the calories that I've consumed, is based off obviously what I've been eating. I've been inputting that into Chronometer. Because I eat essentially the same thing every single day, it's not super difficult for me to track the amount of calories that I've consumed, and of course the weight is very accurate. Now, I gave this data to ChatGPT because I really wanted to confirm that the amount of calories that I burnt was an accurate number. And according to ChatGPT, according to the doctor, this is accurate within about 10%. So this is a pretty accurate number. So this is a lot of data. This is the month of September. My average weight was 75.1 kilos. I consumed on average 3,600 calories, and I burnt on average 4,000. In the month of October, my weight increased by a kilo from 75.1 to 76.1 kilos. My calories consumed was basically 3,600, and my calories burnt was essentially 3,900. So a 300 calorie deficit in October, a 400 calorie deficit in September, and in November, our weight went up another half a kilo to 76.7 kilos. My calories consumed was about 3,450 and my calories burnt was about 3,900, so a 450 calorie deficit. So essentially we've been in between a 300 and a 500 calorie deficit every month. However, our weight has gone up 1.6 kilograms, which is interesting. Now you might be thinking, these calorie burnt numbers are very, very high. 3,800, 3,900, 4,000. This makes sense, right? I run a marathon every month. My long run a week is usually at least a half marathon. I'm doing a lot of activity. I'm exercising every day. You can see on my marathon days, I'm burning like 7,000 calories. So this makes sense. This is a high number. If you look at my progress photos or my progress videos, you can pretty well see that my body fat seems to be decreasing over time. You can see that my physique, it looks slightly leaner, and you can see month on month that my weight has clearly gone up. So this paints a pretty interesting picture. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at fitness industry related stuff recently, but I used to be quite into that stuff, and quite a common thing that people would say is that you can't lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time unless you're taking steroids. Well, last month I proved that I'm not taking steroids. This month I seem to have proved that I'm building muscle and losing body fat at the same time. So we're busting some myths here. Now, this is coming from me, my data, as someone who has been lifting for 6 years. I've been moving weight around for 6 years, albeit not super optimally. I don't think that I have 6 years of perfect gains. However, I'm not a newbie to the gym. So if you're looking at this data, I think the big takeaway here is that you should not be bulking. You should absolutely not be bulking, because most of the goals that we have when it comes to the gym is essentially broken down into I'm trying to look better. If you're trying to look better, getting fatter is not going to help. Getting fatter will never, ever, ever help you look better unless you are sub 10% body fat, anorexically skinny, which doesn't apply to basically anyone watching this, okay? So big takeaway here is, yes, you can absolutely build a very significant amount of muscle and lose body fat at the same time. So if you think that's impossible, well, at least eat maintenance calories, but there's clearly not a super strong need to be in constant calorie surpluses. Now, if you want to be super fancy about it, then the way I've been going about consuming my calories is I do 4 lifting days a week. I do a upper, a lower, a day break, and then an upper, lower, and then 2 days break. And on my break days, I'm running. What I do on my lifting days is I eat a 300 calorie surplus. And then on my non-lifting days, I eat a 300 calorie deficit. So on average, my calories are around maintenance. Now, of course, I've been in deficits the past few months because I've been kind of trying to reduce the body fat a little bit, but that's my goal, is to try and eat around maintenance. But on my lifting days, I'm eating a calorie surplus, and then on my non-lifting days, I'm eating a calorie deficit. The reason I do this is because there is pretty strong evidence to suggest that if you are in a calorie deficit, if you're in a calorie surplus around your lifts, when your muscle protein synthesis is stimulated, you will slightly increase the rate at which you're going to grow muscle. So the way I do this is that I eat my calorie surpluses when I'm lifting. The days that I'm lifting, when my muscle protein synthesis is stimulated, it's up. Now, it'll rise above baseline for about 2 days after you lift, particularly quite a lot in the first day. So the way I do this is I do an upper day. I always follow it by a lower day the next day, so that my 2 days where I'm getting calorie surpluses are the day of and the day after my upper day. I just care about building upper body muscle more than lower body muscle. So theoretically, this will allow me to get pretty good upper body gains, pretty decent lower body gains. But then on my non-lifting days, when muscle protein synthesis is not super high for anything, that's when I'm doing my calorie deficits. And what you would have noticed if you were really paying attention to the data is that generally my calorie deficit days have just been more than 300 calorie deficits. That's why my calories on average are a bit lower. That's how I've been doing it. It is probably not an 80-20 thing to do. I wouldn't suggest doing this straight away. This might be something that you would do if you're looking to absolutely optimize, but that's just worth noting that that is probably significantly helped me be able to build muscle and reduce my body fat at the same time as someone who's not a newbie in the gym. Because realistically, if you're a complete newbie in the gym, you can look at a weight and probably build some muscle. But if you're a few years in, it might take a little bit more action. So I thought that would be quite interesting to show you guys. It probably might break a few of your limiting beliefs about needing to bulk and get fat to build muscle. I just think it's a very, very stupid idea. We're not trying to be bodybuilders here. We're trying to, look a little bit better, be healthier, feel good. Getting super fat is not going to really help any of those things. So look, that's just the data. I'm just sharing this with you. Take it as you will, but I thought it was quite interesting. I think it's very, very promising because it means that I can maintain kind of looking how I want to look while I slowly make progress and build towards that maxed out natty physique. So there you go. That is quite an interesting bit of data. Let's talk about sleep, because sleep is going to be one of the most important factors that contributes to not only how I look, but how I feel, how I perform mentally, how strong I am, just a lot of downstream impacts of having good quality sleep. Now, the previous 2 months, I've averaged an 88 sleep score. This is all based on Whoop, which I would consider to be the most accurate wearable when it comes to sleep. What happened this month? Well, you guys know that I have to create spreadsheets. I have to overanalyze things. So I've also created a spreadsheet for the sleep data. Now, as you can see here, the sleep performance for the month went down to 79. This is a drop of nearly 10% from the last 2 months, which is a big deal, allegedly. However, if we look a little closer at the data, everything is not quite as it seems, because the time in bed only really went down by about 30 minutes. My restorative sleep average went down by maybe 30 minutes as well, and my sleep efficiency was essentially the same. The big difference this month was the sleep consistency. The sleep consistency dropped from 83 and 82 to 60, and this is what cooked my sleep performance. Now, why was my consistency so bad? Well, first week of the month I was in Melbourne, second week of the month I was in Perth, third week of the month I was in Melbourne. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal. I was just, jumping between states in Australia, right? Not that big of a deal. A little bit more than you think, because Perth and Melbourne currently have a 3-hour time zone difference. So in that first week, I was going to bed at 10 p.m. Melbourne time. Then I moved to Perth. Now, I would essentially have to be going to bed at 1 a.m. Melbourne time for that week in Perth, and I had to adjust to that. And then I had to come back to Melbourne and essentially go to bed at, 10 p.m. Melbourne time again. So I was jumping around quite a bit. Now, 3 hours makes a significant difference, because if you're usually waking up at 7 a.m., you're now waking up at 4, or you're waking up at 10, right? So it's quite a big jump around. And this cooked the sleep consistency a fair bit, threw me off. Another big factor was that I was over in Perth for a family wedding. We had a few boozy nights, which definitely didn't help the sleep. But overall, the real reason my sleep performance dropped was because of the sleep consistency, which was a consequence of time zone problems. So I don't really consider this a bad month of sleep. Getting 79 sleep score on average for a month is actually quite good regardless, but I think the sleep performance was actually a bit better than 79. This suggests, it was quite average, but I actually think it was quite good. Other than the sleep consistency, this month of sleep was good, and this definitely contributed to, hopefully pretty good gains. I mean, this definitely won't have hurt us. I think this would at least be net neutral. Obviously, it's not as good as last month, but overall, sleep's pretty good. Kept everything basically the same as last month. I'm still wearing an eye mask. I'm still wearing mouth tape when I sleep. I'm still wearing earplugs. I still have the pink noise machine going. Yeah, it's basically the exact same. Nothing has changed. You can keep the environments quite similar, especially when you have those few extra things like the mouth tape, the earplugs, and the eye mask. You can have that wherever you want. So I was able to quite easily create a good sleep environment no matter where I was. So there you go. That was the sleep for the month. I think it was pretty good. The sleep consistency is probably catastrophizing how bad the sleep was, but I thought it was pretty decent. So there you go. That was my sleep for the month.
All right, it is that time of the month. Okay, this dog is just barking at me now at this point. All right, it is this time of the month again. We're going to test the physique. We're going to see how the physique looks after this month of training. Now, obviously, it hasn't been the perfect month of training. We've basically had our home gym broken, so we've had to switch to a commercial gym. We had a deload week. We've been in and out of Perth and Melbourne. We haven't had perfect sleep, but eating's been pretty good, training's been not too bad, so we'll see how it's gone. Now, same conditions as always. It is first thing in the morning. I haven't had any food. I don't have a pump, nothing special, consistent lighting. So hopefully it'll be pretty similar to how it was last month in terms of the conditions. That being said, I am going to show you guys side-by-side comparisons between month 2 and this month because, well, to be honest, month 1 I did my physique update in my underpants, and I don't want to keep showing clips of me in my underpants if I'm being completely honest. So that's why we're going from month number 2 to today. But basically the physique between month 1 and month 2 was identical anyway. So not much of a difference, but that's why that is the case. Anyway, let's see what the physique looks like.
This is the first month where I've genuinely seen changes in the physique. Clearly, I've added a bit of muscle, and it looks like I'm a little bit leaner as well. Now, based on our numbers, based on our data, it would suggest that we have increased in muscle mass and reduced in body fat. I think these progress pictures and videos are clearly supporting that case, which is an interesting thing to see. Particularly, my back and arms have gotten significantly larger than they were 60 days ago. Overall, incredibly happy. Obviously, 90 days isn't enough time to see insane changes, especially for an intermediate lifter. But I think with these inputs, given a few years, this is going to look crazy.